Last summer, I had the privilege of meeting Polly and Joe Schindler, remarkable people whose compassion and strength have left a lasting impression on me. In fact, I probably first came across your path back in 1988 during the Post Falls Junior Miss. Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Lyfe Podcast. And today I've got a special guest, but before I introduce my guest, I'm going to read the intro here because I want to get everything right. And unfortunately, I'm not young anymore, so I'm going to have to do the reading glasses real quick here. All right, last summer I had the privilege of meeting Polly and Joe Schindler, remarkable people whose compassion and strength have left a lasting impression on me. In fact, I probably first came across your path back in 1988 during the Post Falls Junior Miss program, where you participated, and my wife was a contestant or whatever you got,
Right.
participant in that same thing. Later on, she became my wife of 33 years.
And she won the pageant.
It was actually last summer at the Anna Schindler Memorial Golf Tournament that our paths truly connected, and I'm grateful for that opportunity. In January 2010, Joe's daughter Anna was diagnosed with
Hepatoblastoma.
Yes, there you go. What you said. It's a rare childhood liver cancer. Their world was shaken. And after a courageous battle, Anna went to be with Jesus later that summer. In the wake of this heartbreaking loss, a beautiful mission emerged. In January of 2011, they founded the Anna Schindler Foundation to walk alongside families facing similar tragedies. I'm reminded of Isaiah 61:3 that says, "To all who mourn, he will give a crown of beauty for ashes." The Schindlers have lived this truth. They have transformed their grief into a source of hope, comfort, and tangible support for others. The mission of the Anna Schindler Foundation is to provide emotional and financial support to families fighting childhood cancer in the inland Northwest, Washington, Idaho, Montana, and Oregon, while raising awareness of this devastating disease. To date, the foundation has supported nearly 800 families, provided more than $1 million in financial assistance, and built 2 respite townhomes for families who require extended lodging during the intensive treatment and remain near the hospital as required by their physician. 4 additional townhomes are currently under construction and are expected to open in the spring of 2026. That's amazing.
It's incredible.
It is a true pleasure to sit with you today, Polly. And we'll talk more about the foundation, but first, I want to get to know you.
Thanks, Dave, for having me on this
And
podcast.
so this podcast is literally about just hearing your story. Obviously, you're an amazing woman. And like I said, I had the pleasure of coming to the foundation and participating in that. Last summer, I literally just think I sat there and cried for about an hour. What you do is amazing. And I want to get to the foundation because I want people to be aware of the work that you're doing. Most people that know you, and besides obviously your close friends and family and those things, know you as this head of the foundation and doing this stuff. But I kind of want to get to know you.
Right.
You were born and raised in this area, correct?
I am a lifer in North Idaho. I grew up here just south of the Spokane River in Post Falls. Come from a family of 7.
7 children or 7 total family?
7 children.
Holy buckets.
My dad was a dentist in Post Falls, Dr. Tyke, for many years. Grew up in the country, fought my battles with my siblings, loved them, and sled during the wintertime. I had a fairly normal, there was some bumps. Our family was involved in a religious cult when I was young, which was one of the hiccups in my life. And then I am grateful for the lessons that were learned from that. Learned a lot from it. I was pretty young. My siblings were much older than I was. But from that, all I can say is God guided us through our faith.
Wow.
I mean, it's just a loaded gun. There's so much I could talk about. But anyway, from that, we were in that cult till I was about in 5th grade. And then came out of that. Went to a private school. Even in part of that religious cult, we were in a private school. Went to private school until about my 9th grade year, and then I went to Post Falls High School from my sophomore to senior year. And loved sports. I was in track, love volleyball. I was a very independent person, kind of a fighter, so to speak. So I graduated. I didn't have a great desire to go on to college. I was one of those people that really liked hands-on learning. And I actually did try college and told my dad after first semester, this is for the birds, Dad. I don't want this. I want to just learn hands-on. And I had for years worked at his dental office as a secretary. Well, sometimes back in that day, dental assisted when there was no assistant. So I learned a lot of those skills because I worked at the dental office. And then didn't go to college. I worked myself up as a manager of an athletic club in Coeur d'Alene, Stay Fit Athletic Club back in the day.
Come on. I remember Stay Fit.
Yeah. So I did that. And then in there, I met my husband. He had come here from Kansas. We fell in love and were engaged rather quickly. And I got married at 19.
Okay. Yeah, we got married young too. So
So we had those, you could call them struggles, but they're almost a blessing in disguise because we had nothing when we started. Living on rice-a-roni and love and
been there, done that.
A car that hardly ran. But man, we made it. We had our own mortgage and so we've been married 34 years.
Yeah, so let's see. So 92, I should know this. Let's see, 90, this 26 will be 34 years for us too. Yeah. So we got married at the same time. Yeah. Grew up in the same part of the world and married about the same amount of time. Yeah. And like I said, you participated in Junior Miss with my wife. Who would know that like 30 years later we would be sitting here today? Yeah, well, and it's crazy because it was probably 2 years ago I saw her in a thrift store. She was buying up stuff. And we were chatting about Junior Miss and me not knowing from my little private school background what a formal was and twirling fire. I just remember, I wanted her to win and she won. You were the fire twirler. I was the fire twirler. Come on. Well, I couldn't even put hairspray in my hair. I'd light on fire. So all the other girls had hairspray. I'm like, girls, you better stay away from me. Once I light this, you're going to ignite. There you go. So you got married to Joe, and then children. How many children did you have? We have 8 children. 8 children? Yeah. So, did you always plan on having a big family? Like everybody, every couple that gets married, where it's like, oh, the magic number is this. Ours was 5. Okay. Yeah. But, God had other plans, obviously. So we have, 4 girls, 4 boys. Wow. Yeah. And now you've got some kids that are married, correct? 3 that are married. I have 6 grandchildren. We homeschooled. I was a homeschooling mom for 24 years. Wow, I did not know that. Yeah. So I got tired at the end. I would imagine. So the boys, my youngest boys, which are 2019 now, 2019 and 19, they did their high school through a private school because 3 boys. Holy, yeah. Real close together. It wasn't working, and I was tired. Yeah, our last just graduated early. She's 17. She just graduated. Wow. So are you, so you have no kids left in school? No kid, well, college. But okay, but I mean. None in grade school. My last one, she was self-disciplined, wanted to finish 2 years in one. She did it, and she just had her graduation party last weekend. So. Wow, that's so cool. Yeah. So are you planning on, doing the homeschool for the grandkids? I'll teach them to read and write. My limit is about 10 years old. Okay. And then after that, my children will tell you I'm not a good teenage teacher. My goodness, how terrible. Yeah, I've always admired people that homeschool. And I honestly think that it's the best way to go. I just don't think my wife and I we weren't cut out for that. Well, honestly, it takes years to figure it out. Like when somebody will come ask me for like advice on homeschooling, I'm like, have grace. If you don't have expectations, it's not going to get broken, because there are those rough days. You're like wanting to keep up with what you think is supposed to happen. That was always tough for me, but having a schedule and a routine was like a must. If I didn't have dinner figured out by 10 a.m. and planned, y'all were eating macaroni and cheese that night. It just didn't come together, but it was definitely like a lot of scheduling. And I think I'm kind of that personality anyway, so it worked for me. My kids might say otherwise, but it really takes a lot of organization and discipline. But at the same time, if it's snowing outside, you guys close your books, we're going sledding. Come on. So, yeah. Yeah. You said something earlier. You said it takes a lot of grace. Isn't that just true in life? I mean, if we could figure out how to give each other grace, wouldn't a lot of problems just get... Oh, my gosh. There would be so many less problems if we just gave each other some grace. Yeah, there's that. And then
when you do something, in any moment that you're doing something, not sitting there going, oh, I haven't done my 15 minutes of prayer today or whatever it is. Just like, okay, in that moment, if it's washing dishes, that's your prayer. Like as you're going through your daily routine. Because I remember just getting super frustrated with the kids sometimes, like, oh no, there's grace in this, sitting with the kids and having them read to you, in the frustration of, you're not writing that right, or here's your rough draft, do it again, and the fight, because in the fight, as frustrating as it is, there's a lot of grace in that, if you give it to him.
Yes, yes. Well, those are powerful words and so true, and I try to do that. But it's difficult sometimes.
It is. And then there's moments where you're like, okay, why do I feel so chaotic right now? It's like, I know why. I'm not focusing on this correctly and doing it for him. You always, I mean, we're human. Yeah. There's no perfect human,
Well, 8 kids, homeschool, all the way up till 24 years. That's a lot of years.
It's a lot of years. Yeah. I loved it. I miss it, honestly. Yeah. I tell my friends that are going there, I call it in the trenches. You're in the trenches right now.
Yes.
And I remember praying and bawling in the shower going, am I going to be able to do this? And then now being on this side of it, can I have an 8-year-old come to say, read me a book? I would love somebody to come tell me to read a book to them,
Yes.
Just a little kid. So my grandkids, unfortunately, they're far away. So
you have grandkids not in this area?
They're not in this area.
Oh, that's going to be so hard.
Yeah, so they come pretty frequently, 4 times a year, and then we just had a new grandbaby. They're in California, and they're coming for Christmas.
Okay.
So I get to use
cool.
my little squishy for a little bit.
My wife and I are thinking about that because our oldest daughter just got married this past summer, and I think they're going to probably, start trying to have a family fairly soon. And she's in Boise. And it's kind of like, oh my goodness, I don't know what's going to happen.
Forget the college fun. It's the travel to see grandchildren fun.
Yeah, that's probably what's going to happen. I know, we think, oh my goodness, we don't want to miss anything,
right.
And if they're not right there, then unfortunately there's stuff you miss.
It is. I tell Katie all the time, man, I wish it was just around the block because I could take them for phonics class and take them for science class or just take them for ice cream. Would be really fun. When they come. One of the things the kids run in the house, Nana, can we go on a side-by-side ride? So we pile into the side-by-side and I take them up the mountain. There's just, I miss my grandkids.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Best part of my life. Love to have littles around and with the holidays coming. It's a little bit different, but they're coming.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So how many of your family will be here for the holidays?
My children will all be home for Christmas this year.
That's crazy. Yeah. That's so cool.
Yeah, so it'll be really, really fun. And then the new grandbaby will be there.
My goodness. That is going to be
I got to pre-warn them. You're getting family pictures whether you like it or not. I got a son-in-law that doesn't like pictures. I'm like, dude, this is my Christmas present.
Yeah, I feel so guilty because there's definitely times where I've been the person that's like, we don't need a picture right now. And my wife's just so adamant about, getting the pictures. And, I'm so thankful that she did that because now you're just, you look through the pictures or you look through stuff and you're like, oh my goodness, I remember this person. Yeah. And, as we get older, there's aunts and uncles that, they can't be in the picture because they're no longer with us. And it's just like, oh my goodness. Yeah. So I got to give.
When the kids were little, she was my big helper and JJ was my big helper, but the camera was not in my hand. And back then we didn't have a cell phone.
Right.
We had to go grab the camera. Thankfully, she loved the camera. So Katie is my photographer that caught all the moments of the little kids because I was either changing diapers or running. And so there's that part of our life, but I got to go get it off a jump drive somewhere. It's not on my phone.
Yeah. So. Oh, I know. It's crazy now. We've got, as much as I hate everybody having their phone all the time, it isn't much easier to capture moments because, and I don't know how kids do it. They're so fast. They'll be like, something's happening. They'll get their camera and they've got their camera app down and taking pictures, and I'm like,
And
still
this.
trying to.
And this. Blazing thumbs.
I'm trying to open my camera app, and then I'm trying to like find out what, and then somehow I end up on video or
Yeah.
on panoramic or end up on something else. And
Mom, you have 10 tabs open. What are you doing? No wonder your battery's running low.
yeah, that happens to me all the time.
Yeah.
And I keep thinking I'm going to get better, but every time I think I get better, then they change.
Oh, they
the apps
update.
are changed and they update, and then I'm like, well, I just figured this one out. Now I don't know.
And it gets worse as you get older. I like, man, if I would have had what we have now in my teens, I'd have been smoking it. But
Yeah.
now my capacity's kind of getting full.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. And like texting, my thumb hits 3 letters every time I want to text, and it doesn't work.
I agree.
So you married Joe, quick engagement or whatever. So what does Joe do?
So when we first got married, I got pregnant and he went in the military. He served in the Air Force for 4 years, which was an absolute blessing for us because we had health insurance, place to stay. We had actually bought a house in Post Falls, and then he went in the Air Force, and then we were like, oh, we're going to have to move. We're going to get deployed somewhere. We're going to have to go move somewhere else. I started selling stuff off. Well, he got based at Fairchild.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, got based at Fairchild, so we didn't have to move. And then that summer after we got married, a firestorm hit. So just raging fires all over here. And he was like, I want to be a fireman. And that's how, so when he went in the Air Force, he chose that field in the Air Force.
Oh, wow.
So he got all his fire department training. He served 4 years. He got deployed to Iraq. He got 2 deployments, one to Iraq, one to Baghdad. That was a little tough.
Yeah.
Mom home with baby, and he's gone. First one was 3 months, and then the second one, they didn't tell us. We didn't know how long it was going to be. It ended up only being a month. So from there, once he got out of the military, he had his military points. A couple, get on all these, he wanted to get onto a fire department. So we tested and we drew this huge radius around this, Post Falls, all the way to Great Falls, Walla, and I say we because he would take a test and then the score wouldn't be what we needed it to be, what needed to be improved. And we'd sit down at the table and do math problems. Whatever on the test needed improvement, we'd sit there as a couple and work through that. And then he got on with the Spokane Valley Fire Department right here locally.
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, he served it. He did serve for 4 years in the military, then came out and was a civilian firefighter out there for Fairchild for, I want to say a year, 2 years, and then got on with the Spokane Valley Fire.
Wow. It's crazy how, we try to make plans, but somehow, some way, God's plans kind of take over. And
Yes.
And they end up being the better plan.
Exactly. Yeah, I remember one of the tests he got a 50% on, and he was devastated. And he thinks he got out of order on the test. I'm going to leave it to that, but it was ultimately God because he ended up taking the test again and scored in the top 10. And then in the physical portion that bumped him because he was very athletic, it bumped him to one of the top spots. And as a young couple with 2 kids getting on with the fire department, having insurance, stability, the fire department schedule is just amazing. And we were going to homeschool. So we knew our schedule a year in advance.
Now, is Joe still a firefighter?
He's a firefighter. He's not on the line. He just came off the line and is a health and safety officer for the Spokane Valley Fire.
Oh, but he still works for Spokane Valley.
He still works for Valley Fire,
Okay.
but he's on days. That's a little different, but after 30-some years. But yeah, he's still with the fire department. He'll work a couple more years.
Wow, that's crazy. So, firefighter, you're having kids, and what was life like with so back to the homeschool thing. I couldn't help but keep thinking about this. Do you have like one crazy homeschool story?
Oh
I'm sure there's 100.
One. I just remember the absolute chaos of them all being at the table and juggling the different curriculum, not the different curriculum, but the different lesson plans of each level.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I did have some older kids. My oldest daughter, I called her a little mother. She just would she'd help the younger ones. And then I would say just the juggling of the boys. When I say the lower boys, the younger boys at the time, they were very close in age. So there's 3 of them, and we called them Ding, Dang, and Dong. Trying to juggle, and they all learned differently. That was pretty much a struggle. One of them was he's a hands-on kid, not a book learner, and you can't put square peg in a round hole. So we had, just I would say that I don't have anything.
Yeah.
As I got more veteranized in the homeschooling thing, I learned to, you know what, it's okay. We can take today off and just go sledding or do something fun, or if a kid's sick, you know what, it's okay.
Yeah.
And I think I was my worst enemy on that part,
Oh, I can.
Because I'm regimented, and I got to check my box, and I wasn't a clothes thrower, which I could have used a little bit of clothes throwing through my homeschooling years. But yeah, it was a struggle. But whether they went to private school or public school, I think there would have been somewhat of the same amount of chaos just because we had that many kids.
Yeah.
And different ages.
8 kids is a lot.
Yeah, 8 kids is a lot. The older ones were super helpful with the younger ones, and the character training in that.
Yes.
Is pretty awesome. I even noted my older children, you don't mother the younger ones like you mothered us. And I'm like, no, because it's just different. It
is different. Yeah.
It's different. Time has gone by, and I don't have that help anymore, so.
Yeah. Well, and you probably, I know, I'm sure you have this with your older kids as well. My older girls, because they were, by default, helpers, whatever, right. They've got this incredible knack for, just problem solving and, working in all kinds of different situations. And I think that came from just having younger siblings.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, just, changing diapers to putting dishes away, to helping mom set the table, dinner, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something my younger ones don't have because they didn't have younger siblings.
Right.
It would be kind of funny to be a fly on the wall or be able to go back in time and show the youngest one what the oldest one did. And they'd be like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's crazy. But I feel like when I've got my younger ones now are in 9th grade and 10th grade. And if they've got, issues or, whatever, boy problems, girl problems, school problems, whatever it is, they've got their older siblings to go to and talk to and all this kind of thing. And I kind of feel bad for my older ones that they didn't, they've got the parents, but they didn't have that older sibling. Yeah, it's not the same. Because obviously we never went through any of those things.
No. I mean, I was the youngest. I was the second youngest of 7, but by the time I got to wanting any help, they were all gone.
Yeah.
Because I was on the younger end of it, and that's what my younger ones are go through. The older ones are gone.
Yeah.
But I am blessed. They all love to come home, and it's huge fun around the holidays. And then we try to do one summer family vacation where we bring them all to wherever we're going, and we spend 4 or 5 days talking and playing, and
That's super cool.
Yeah, so I'm very blessed.
So my wife's side of the family, we try to do a family reunion every year. It's usually the end of July. And it seems like most years somebody, can't make it because, work or whatever. And this last summer, we were at Oregon and everybody was able to make it. And so all the kids and the grandkids and everybody was there. And it's so obviously there was lots of pictures and lots of stuff. And it's kind of like, we just don't know how many times, that's able to happen because as they get older, they get their own families and then their own in-laws and then their own, school schedules or sports schedules or work schedules or whatever, life schedules. Yeah. And so, that's so cool for you to be able to have everyone here. That's got to be pretty exciting.
I mean, along those same lines, you're saying sometimes, when we first started going to Montana for our vacations, my parents would drive up. Well, now, the last 3 years, they haven't been able to because they're older. And then, one kid has to go off to work. So I would say just soak up those moments with your family when you have them because you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's true. And kind of on that tone, kind of switching gears, you've experienced something that, that nobody should ever have to experience.
Yeah.
And I know it's not a good topic, but what you're doing now is like so incredible that we kind of have to visit the story to talk about what's going on now, which I wanted to talk about the foundation a little bit just to kind of bring some awareness or whatever. Would you mind kind of talking to me about Anna a little bit?
So Anna was I call her peanut butter and jelly in the middle. She was our middle child, and she was 6 years old. So at the time, we have 7 kids. She's smack dab in the middle, and normal homeschooling family stuff going on, and she starts complaining of her tummy hurting. Well, as a mother, you need to go sit on the toilet.
Yeah.
And then she would fall asleep on the couch. Oh, it's a growing. She's going through a growth spurt. She's going to sleep, And that went on for a little bit. No red flags, nothing crazy. And then we were having some home improvement done on the outside of the house, and she wanted to help because she was my little go-getter. So I sent her outside and with a pair of needle nose pliers to pull these little nails out of the board. And it wasn't very long. She came inside, and she's holding her side. She's like, it just really hurts, Mom. And I was like, okay, well, I'll give you some. I gave her some Tylenol, or ibuprofen, children's Tylenol, ibuprofen. And I put her in front of a Disney movie because I was like, I'll just let her lay low for a little bit. Yeah. And it didn't really improve. And that evening, my husband and I took her to an urgent care in Post Falls, and the doctor checked her and said, I think she honestly just pulled a muscle. I don't even remember if he palpated her stomach or not. Anyway, so he sent us home. He said if the symptoms get worse, this typical, if they get worse, come back. Yeah. That night, she had a pretty rough night's sleep. She was up and down. And my mama bells were kind of going off at that point. Yeah. I'm like, hate that. And the next morning, I was supposed to take her to her friend's house because she was doing a little co-op that day with art class and stuff. And Anna looked a little yellow to me, and she was complaining that her stomach and her side hurt. And I looked at Joe. He was getting ready for work. I said, I'm taking her to a doctor. And he goes, oh, it's fine. It's just a pulled muscle. And I remember in my heart being mad at him. Like, you don't know that. And we went to the doctor, and it was our family practitioner. And she looked at her and palpated her stomach and turned around and looked at me and goes, can we pull blood? And I'm thinking, I'm one of these mama hens on the mountain. I don't take our kids to the doctor unless they need it. So it's not something that was frequent with us. Well, you're going to take blood. In a mom's mind like that, it's this huge thing. Right. So They pulled blood, and then the doctor came in and goes, you know what, I want to send you on to Kootenai to have, I can't remember if I think it was an ultrasound, yeah, to have an ultrasound done. And I said, oh, okay. I said anything to figure it out. Because Anna at this point was in and out of pain. And it would be like excruciating pain, ow, 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 to she's mellow. And it would pitch like this, back and forth. So we get to Kootenai, and I walk in the emergency room, and they go right this way. And I know enough. Okay, why did they call me right away? Yeah. I didn't have to sit there. They took us right back and got the ultrasound done, and the tech was sitting there and says to me, this will explain a lot of her pain. And I know enough, too, that they don't usually say anything like that. And he goes, can I go get the doctor? And I'm like, sure. And so the doctor comes in and goes, can we do a contrast CT scan? And at this point, I'm like, where I had got in my head was, we're going to be 3 days at Kootenai. It's a hernia as a mom. That's where I went because the pain in her side. So, and then I'm like, when he said contrast CT scan, I'm like, that's another IV. Going to have to poke her again. And this is the little girl that she could love you and squeeze you and be your buddy, or she could kick you in the knees if you got too dang close. Like, she was spit and vinegar if she needed to, but she was very tender. But she was the one kid that anybody got in her space, she'd let you know. So I'm like, oh my gosh, they're going to poke her again. So the nurses are doing the IV, and she's not whimpering. She's not saying nothing. She's doing everything they tell her to do. And the nurse, I remember the nurse looking at me going, oh my gosh, she's being so good. And prior to us even, and back up a little bit, and prior to us even going to the urgent care the first time, Joe's a fireman. They are EMTs. They go on all our calls. Yeah. He was feeling her stomach. He had her stand up and trying to feel if there was anything obvious. And Anna looked at him and said, Daddy, am I going to die? And Joe and I were like, oh my gosh, she's asking this question as a 6-year-old child. You're like, she must be in excruciating pain.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So when they did the contrast CT scan and they had pulled, they pulled me behind the wall after it was done. She was still on the table. The computer screens are right there. And I, with no medical experience, could see a mass. And the doctor goes, it's cancer. I can't tell you if it's benign or malignant, but you need to get to Sacred Heart. And I go into this like immediately, what am I going to tell her? I can't tell her she's got cancer. How am I going to do this? And I went back out there and they had given her some dinosaur stickers. You put funny faces on them and stuff. And I said, oh, Anna, let's go. And they had told me behind the wall, like, they'll be expecting you at Sacred Heart. So she had been an absolute trooper. This kid had her blood drawn, had a CT scan done, never even cried, never even whimpered. And she hadn't eaten. So I'm like, I get her out in the car and I set her in the car. And it was, I think I was in shock because the tears weren't flowing or anything at that point. And I put her in the car and I walked behind my Suburban and I called Joe on the phone and I said, it's cancer. It's a huge tumor. I said, we have to take her to Sacred Heart. And I said, he was home. I said, I'll come get you, grab some stuff. I said, first, I'm taking her to eat. She has been so good and she's hungry. So I take her, get back in the car, headed home, and it's just kind of sinking in, and I'm not crying. I didn't want her to see me cry. And then I get to McDonald's and get her a Happy Meal, and I hand it to her, and she's digging into the fries, and my phone rings, and I could see it's a private number, and I pick it up at Sacred Heart Children's Hospital. They're like, ma'am, we received the news on Anna, and can you please not have her eat? And I'm like,
my goodness.
Okay. And so I hang up the phone, and I'm like, Anna, you can't eat anything. They have to do more tests. And I'm expecting her just to full out flare up on me. And she goes, that's okay. I'll just give the fries to Gus and Nate. Her little brother's at home. So I'm like, oh my God, what is going on with this child? And so I get home, we gather some clothes, and we head to Sacred Heart. And by the time we got to Sacred Heart, she was hurting bad. She was like Dad trying to piggyback her. We take her into the ER. From then on, so we got on, they referred us up to the oncology floor. And I was like, nope, in my head, nope, walk through the doors. And there's pictures of the little bald-headed kids on the wall. Nope, we're here for 3 days and then we're out. Surely they're going to have this all figured out. I was in absolute 100% denial. And she was diagnosed with stage 4 liver cancer. She was supposed to undergo 10 rounds of chemotherapy. They scheduled surgery immediately. So they had to do biopsy. Well, biopsy to you and I means a needle? No. With her, it was a wedge of her liver. Well, when they did the biopsy surgery, they couldn't get the bleeding stopped. They're not letting us know that at the time. So they called in, and by the grace of God, and it was an absolute miracle, there was a transplant surgeon at Sacred Heart from Seattle. And he was this Nigerian specialist, and they called him in, and they got the bleeding stopped. And from there, they got the 100%. It was liver cancer. She, within a week, couldn't walk. They started chemotherapy right away, and that just knocked her down. She couldn't walk after a week. She reacted to every medicine. It was just the most horrible experience a parent could have.
Can't imagine.
And we were in the hospital for 74 days before she even got to be discharged. And in that time, she was having chemotherapy. She lost her mobility. She's pretty much bedridden. She gets infection after infection. One of the hardest moments for me was she had long, beautiful hair. And it was falling out in sheets. And I said, Anna, I have to cut your hair. I'll do a cute little A-line. I'll just do a cute little haircut on. So I take her in the bathroom. She could barely stand. I cut her hair because I was like not going to have some stranger cut her hair. No. I cut it and I go, oh, you think that's cute? And I let her see it in the mirror. She got angry. She got mad. She's like, why is this happening to me? And like, your 6-year-old should never have to ask you that question. Joe and I couldn't fix it. One of the other times during treatment that's profound to me is we prayed a lot. We prayed a a lot. And our family has always prayed together. So Anna and I had this little pact that if she was having a bout of pain, we'd pray through the pain. And she'd go, Mommy, you need to pray. So I'd jump over to the bed. And she, at the time, my nephew was in Afghanistan in the middle of the fight. And we all wanted him to come back. So she committed to praying for him during her pain.
That's
and then
amazing.
I would ask her, because we had always taught the kids, the purpose of your prayer. And, sometimes it would be for Gabe, who was in Afghanistan. Sometimes it would be for the other kids on the oncology floor. I'm 6 years old. She's choosing to pray for the other kids on the oncology floor.
Amazing.
So in all of that, she had this maturity. Cancer treatment does do that to kids, just throws them into that inner thoughts. I mean, they really have to grow up so quickly. She battled for 5 months. She was supposed to do 10 rounds of chemo. She couldn't even make it through the fourth. Her body was reacting horribly. Her heart was taxed. I mean, it was awful. Out of those 5 months, we got to go home maybe 2 weeks. And the first discharge, we're sitting on the bed, and the nurses could tell something was wrong. She wasn't wanting to go home. And I'm like, Anna, why don't you want to go home? And she goes, I don't want to give this to my siblings. I don't want to give it to my brothers and sisters. I don't want them to get cancer. She thought it was like a cold. In her little brain, I hadn't thought about what she was thinking. So she didn't want to spread it. So, other moments why would God do this to me? Having to explain that to a child. And we'd have to just figure out ways to do it and pray our way through it. I mean, it was really dark. In that time on the floor, you would see all these other kids. I am the mom that's going to say I only watched cancer on St. Jude's commercials until then. Sacred Heart was a hospital you drove past when you went to the airport. It was never going to be us. And then it was.
Right.
Then it was. And we learned so much on that journey. And asking the other nurses, oh my gosh, there was a little kiddo down the hall, 3 doors down. And I asked the nurse, I'm like, oh, that's so cool. His grandma's there sitting with him. And she stops and she goes, that's not his grandma. That's his foster mom. And I'm like, my gosh, a poor child having to go through this with no parent. And so Joe and I had all these children, but had always wanted to adopt. We inquired about this little guy, and he was up for adoption. So we asked Anna, what do you think? It wasn't an instantaneous thing. This is over a course of weeks. We talked about it, and I said, what do you think about adopting a little boy that's on the floor here? And she goes, yeah, same doctor, So she fought from January to June, and she had a heart attack at home. We didn't know it. She was on one of her stays home, and she had a heart attack at home. Not like what you think is a heart attack. It was like something happened. And then from that time on, it was such a slow decline of her heart, her blood pressure and her heart rate, that over the course of the days, it never caught anybody's eye. It was so slow. And then she had been so sick. She was when she first got discharged, the whole floor went up in an uproar that she got to be discharged. She was just, it's Anna, because she had been so sick. So her heart was taxed by the chemotherapy, and it gave out. We were supposed to be discharged. We went in for a test, and her heart gave out, and we lost her. She went with Jesus on June 29th, 2010. Changed our lives forever. But we learned so much. I mean, I can't even put words to the pain it's something that I would never wish on my worst enemy, the pain of losing a child. And then the pain of watching your children hurt, I think, is a very, very, very close second, is watching the siblings hurt at the loss of their sister and had little kids, just having to navigate that. And I honestly believe we navigated treatment because of our faith, because God was with us in so many ways. I have so many stories, like her first biopsy surgery. The doctor came in, and she had seen that we were people of faith. I had a rosary, and the doctor said, I just want you to know we're going to pray. So the whole people, all the anesthesiologists, everybody comes into the room as you're prepping for surgery, and the doctor stops and says, we're all going to say a prayer here. Anybody that doesn't want to say a prayer, please step out at this point. Nobody moved. There must have been 10 people in that room. And she led a prayer to protect her during that biopsy surgery. And he did. He brought her through, because we would have lost her had that transplant surgeon not been there. So we had 5 months after that before her heart gave out. And from that, we learned so much, so much. Our family grew I mean, not that we were apart, but it just reset our button, like reset the, what is a family? Like our oldest daughter, when she took over as mom at home, and JJ took over as dad when we were at the hospital, because we were there pretty much for 5 months. The guys at the fire department worked Joe's shift, would take his shift.
That's amazing.
So he could be with us at the hospital. The guys, we were in a home renovation outside exterior, and the doctor's like, you can't bring her home until that construction's done. So they put together what was called Schindler's List, and in 3 days, they recited and put the new windows on our house, the firemen and volunteers. Yeah. So there was so much, from tragedy comes goodness. Like, we were absolutely embraced by our community, church community, just people that didn't know us came out of the woodwork. I opened a medical account because people wanted to give. And by the time I paid the last medical bill, we had 75 cents left in that account.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. So we were shown so much love that we were like, we've learned so much. And so it was our goal. So we started the foundation it was 6 months after her death. We started the paperwork, I should say.
Yeah, I can't even say I could imagine what you must have gone through, but I can't even imagine what you'd gone through. And then to start this foundation just 6 months later, that's only God. It is totally God. I mean, if somebody was to tell me 20 years ago, this is what you're going to be doing in 2025, I'd been like, yeah, you're nuts. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Not happening. So we learned what families needed. Our goal was to give $5,000 to a family when we started the foundation. And we gave some money to research initially. That's tough to fundraise for research because there had been so much abuse on that. And then we knew shortly after she was diagnosed, we would do something because we had been just stormed with love by people. So we just decided to start the foundation. $1,000 was blown out of the water that first year. It just took off. And then Joe and I drove. We met a lot of people from like Kalispell, Tri-Cities, and they would always lament that the whole family couldn't come during treatment. Yeah. I mean, we were blessed. We were close to the hospital. But if you imagine 5 hours away and you have as many kids as we did, for them all to be together, forget it. It wasn't happening.
Right.
So we wanted to create a home that they all could come to. And that's where Anna's Homes was inspired.
Yeah, and that's amazing.
We drove around for 3 years and found a spot up on the South Hill and have 2 homes presently that we've helped over 73 families since 2018. The families from like Republic, Washington, Tri-Cities.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, that they can stay in. So it's a labor of love for sure. Joe and I volunteer 100% of our time and energy to it. But you don't go through something like this and not learn from it. And, some people may say, well, yeah, you plunged in a little bit too quick afterwards. Yeah, you're probably right. But it has been very healing. Not that you're ever healed. It's not like the flu where you're over it. It's a way to take heartache and make something good happen from it.
Right.
Would I, in a heartbeat, trade it all to hold her one more time? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But she's with him. We raise our children to go to him. Does that make it easier? No. Does it give you peace? Yes. And a drive to help others. I mean,
yeah. It's that's why when I was just kind of thinking about this, that's the verse popped into my mind that, he creates beauty out of ashes. And in your situation, obviously you don't wish that on anybody, or anybody would want to go through that. But, I think about, and just reading the stories, like when you go to your website and read the stories. And then when I was at your foundation last year, how many families that you and Joe have been able to touch, and really Anna's been able to touch.
Right. I mean, it's absolutely incredible what's happened with this foundation.
It's so incredible. I just think of, like my brother and his wife. So my niece was born with Down syndrome and had some significant heart issues. And I just think of, they live in Wenatchee, and all their stuff had to be done in Seattle. And I think of just the cost of back and forth driving. And then I think they were able to stay a lot of times in a Ronald McDonald house. But when they couldn't, the hotels and just, you have to eat out because there's no place to eat.
Exactly.
And just all the expenses, not even, when you're going through probably the worst emotional time in your life, you also get dumped on with all of the expenses that go with that. And so,
yeah, when you think of just taking a weekend trip to Seattle, what does that cost you? Well,
Right.
now throw in, you're going to stay for an extended stay.
right.
And food, like that was a big one, like at a hotel. If you've got 2 kids or 3 other kids, is it easier to make a meal in a house
Well, yeah.
or at a hotel and go out every night,
Right.
So that all those little things, those homes were built with that in mind, and the
Right.
community has stepped up. I mean, they're constructed to help with, medical needs, clear line of sight to the kiddo's bedroom, because you never know when they're going to get, have to use the bathroom or get sick. The flooring's made so mobility is not an issue, chair lifts. And we consulted other families that had gone through it on how to construct these homes.
Right.
They are constructed that way to help the families.
Yeah, that's amazing. And there's 2 townhomes that exist now.
Correct.
And 4 more will be added this
They're under
spring.
construction.
That's, I mean,
6 homes. So it'll
be beyond amazing. And I know that those families that are going through this awful time, what a blessing it is for those families to be able to keep their families together. And
Right.
then, I think hotels now are like $200 a night, for.
And we don't charge the families anything to stay. If they have an insurance that has a medical lodging benefit, then we'll get reimbursed for that. But I would say 98% of the families don't have that. So we raise money and we cover their stay. No one ever asked to pay for it. And
Yeah, it's amazing.
it is absolutely, God's blessed it in so many ways. The community of donations and the donors and companies that have stepped forward to help with from the roof to the floor to the electrical. I mean, I have stories that would make somebody's head spin on just good inspirational stories. I remember thinking back prior to Anna's sickness. You remember the show Extreme Makeover?
Oh, yeah.
So I always loved that show.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when we were going through Anna's cancer treatment, I remember saying to several moms on the floor, we need an Extreme Makeover Cancer Edition, because there was so many things that would happen that were just beautiful. Like, cancer has side effects. It does. And many people will think I'm just probably off my rocker right now. But if you have the ability to look at the good that comes from cancer diagnosis, like what happened to our family rocked us to the core. But if you asked our kids, they'll all have a positive side effect from that.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Would I take it? No cancer, absolutely. But you wouldn't learn as much, definitely. So, yeah. So, beautiful blessings.
Amazing. Well, I mean, literally, last summer when I first, I probably met you in 1988.
Long time ago.
But when I first actually met you and was really exposed to what you and Joe are doing and the families that you're touching, and I was just blown away. And I was just thinking, what you two are such an inspiration to so many. But like for me, it was just like, oh my goodness, this is how people are meant to live. To be filled with grace, to be filled with love, to be filled with compassion. And if we could figure that out, man, all these weird political problems that we have and all
Can
these
we download something?
fights that we have for stupid things, I mean, all of those would go away.
To me, I get critical sometimes. You have $1 million and you're spending it on that. Give it to me and I'll make that stretch. I have so many families I could touch.
I can only imagine. But, here's the deal. Thank you so much for sharing with me and with our audience. And, man, I can't say thank you enough for taking time out of your.
I just appreciate you inviting me on this podcast, which is my very first podcast. I'll let everybody know. I do speak in front of people, but this is much more casual. We'll keep on keeping on.
It was truly, truly my pleasure. I'll obviously be at the golf tournament. I'm not a very good golfer, but it was
Doesn't matter. We don't have good golfers at our golf
It was
tournament.
so fun. And, I'm going to say that that probably was the best, ran event like that I've personally been to. And I know Mary Savage does a lot of work on that, but I mean, your team just dialed it in. So it was not only was it successful as far as raising some money, but it was anybody that was there had a blast.
Right.
A blast. So I would just tell anybody here, and I'm going to list the website below when this gets published, Anna Schindler Foundation.com. Is that correct?
.org.
.org. I'm sorry. Anna Schindler Foundation.org. Check that out. Man, if there's an opening, get in.
You better get in early. We sell out like that.
Yeah, they'll sell out. And it literally is a can't miss event. But if you are out there, you're a company or a person and trying to figure out an organization to donate to, and this is by far an incredible organization. I was so impressed when I went to your website, and I mean, you list your financials out there for everybody to see. Yeah. There's no weird stuff there.
No,
I know
transparent. Go ahead.
Oh no, I just heard story after story of people that you've touched that it goes way beyond money. I mean,
it's not about the money.
Oh my goodness.
No.
But I mean, the things that you do, like I remember someone needed tires and it was like, oh, we can get you tires, and just like helping people just with stuff because you've been through it. You've walked where they've walked, and
we know
your heart is amazing.
And everything comes at a cost. And, to your point about the golf tournament and how great it was ran, my children are very much involved now with the foundation, have been from the very get-go. So all of that is a dialed-in family event. And then the money that's given is so frugally spent. My family will call me tight because if you give me $5, I'm going to stretch that $5 as much as possible. And it's the same thing that we do with the foundation. Like if I can save an expense and more can go to a family that needs it, because they're always in need. Like just this week alone, I've probably had 15 requests from the hospital. And like one of them's a funeral, helping out with a funeral, or a mom that needs gas to get to Seattle, or hotels in Seattle. I mean, I could name it all, but every dollar is spent as he would want it spent.
Yeah, and I literally, with the amount of that I've learned about it and what I've seen, that is 1,000% true. So I'm just going to say, because I know it's, sometimes when money's an issue or whatever, people, you don't like talking about money. This is an organization that you want to give to. So if you're a business out there or a person out there or whatever, I can't think of a better way to spend money than the Anna Schindler Foundation. Check out that website. And once again, thank you so much. It was
Dave.
100% my pleasure to talk with you. And I'm humbled that you would come and sit with me and share your story.
I just love
Thank
the casual conversation about, goodness, good things going on. And there's always good things going on.
There is.
Thank you for spreading the word about our foundation.
Oh,
I truly
my
appreciate
pleasure.
it. I mean, my phone number's on the website. They can text me, call me if they have any questions. Really
Awesome.
appreciate the opportunity.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And just for a little bit of business, man, thank you for watching. Thank you for joining in. Tuesdays, 9:00, this comes out. And every Tuesday at 9:00, if you like hearing stories about people in our community that are doing incredible things, man, like, subscribe, share, all that kind of stuff that you can do. And then comment. If you have comments about this or things that you think I can do to make this better, man, let me know. I'm figuring this out as I go. So
I
thanks
think
a lot.
he's got it pretty dialed in.
We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you.